keep still, keep still, keep still.
Plague, pestilence and misery all await the most haunted team at Mary King's Close. Nestled deep beneath the Royal Mile in Edinburgh, there's a hidden labyrinth of narrow streets and houses. Dark shadows, strange noises, and even apparitions of body parts have been reported here.
So scary is this place that some staff members refuse to enter certain areas on their own. With that in mind, we just had to come and investigate Mary King's Close.
The area of Mary King's Close was originally a number of streets lined with houses, taverns and shops. Buildings were up to 7 stories high and housed hundreds of Edinburgh's inhabitants. But in 1645, the city was hit by the bubonic plague, and the squalid confines of the close proved a fertile breeding ground for the Black Death. In an attempt to stem the spread of this ravaging disease, city officials quarantined Mary King's Close, and although victims of the plague were cared for, many died in their homes. By the mid-18th century, the council decided to build the Royal Exchange actually on top of the close. Residents left the area and the street became a subterranean underworld, buried for centuries. But the close was recently reopened, allowing its macabre history to be retold.
When the plague, the Black Death, came here to Scotland, it was so severe that the Scottish Parliament actually moved from Edinburgh to Stirling to avoid it. Here, hundreds and hundreds of people living in a very small area, obviously infecting each other. So the area was sealed off, possibly by consent of the people as well. And many, many people died here, which is probably one of the reasons why there are ghost stories. There was an awful lot of death and anguish that went on here.
Certainly when you go to open up and close at night times, you can actually tell if there's a certain vibe. Sometimes you can feel that it's good when you go down, other times you can feel there's something not quite right. Some rooms you can instantly tell that there's something there. It's a heavy feeling that you get when you know something's not quite right.
This house is so haunted that some members of staff refuse to enter alone. The ghost of a man just standing and staring has been seen many times before he slowly disappears. Also, dark shadows have been seen and footsteps are often heard.
In the Chesney house, the corridor that runs away from the front door towards the back of the building is very long and very quiet and leads nowhere. It's now a dead end, perhaps literally a dead end. And I was standing in there waiting for a tour to pass by on the close outside, and it suddenly became very, very cold, and it almost seemed to become a lot darker than it had been. That was bad enough, but then the footsteps that started at the back of the building in a sealed-off corridor and went right past me to the front door were enough to make me, well, I think the phrase is do a runner, up the close, up the stairs and into the outside world. Sounds melodramatic now, but I was absolutely terrified because it's a one-way corridor. There's no other way in.
A woman murdered her son-in-law close to this very spot, and she was executed for her crime. Since then, his wounded figure has been seen and heard reenacting the moment of his death.
We were closing up once with one of our guides coming down the stairs, and just for a second I was quite certain that we saw boots coming down the side of the stairs behind her. Gentleman in a long black coat, but could only see him from the waist down.
These rooms are arguably the most haunted part of the close. As well as cold spots, phantom voices and dark shadows, the spirit of a little girl has been seen wandering endlessly, trying to find her mother, who apparently left her to die during the plague. She's been seen so many times that guests like to leave toys for her to play with. But is she just waiting on an endless vigil, or are these rooms just old and empty? We have 24 hours to find out.
I think it highly likely that things will happen for the Most Haunted team over the next however many hours you spend down here alone and in the dark. And I'd be very surprised if the spirits of Mary King's Close let you have a quiet night.
So Phil, what are your first impressions of Mary King's Close?
My first impressions, very, very spooky, dark, especially when all the lights go off, and it makes me very nervous just to be here already in the daytime.
It's interesting as well because when we were filming earlier on, when we first came down here, lots of us were having headaches, some of us were feeling a little bit sick. Is this typical of this place?
One of the main reasons for that could possibly be due to the fact that this area was subject to marsh gases in the 1600s. So I'm just wondering if any of that is resident now, which could possibly cause headaches and hallucinations. For instance, there was a family that lived here called the Cold Hearts after the plague in 1645. And they saw some really outlandish things like a floating head, a severed arm, headless animals, that kind of thing. So you never know if that's the actual marsh gases playing with people's imaginations.
As we descended into the maze of streets which make up the Close, the crew began to feel a little apprehensive. We all knew the history of this location and how many people had died within these walls, but the close quarters meant it was also really claustrophobic. It was soon time for psychic Derek Acorah to join us on location, and we were ready to start investigating paranormal activity at Mary King's Close.
As we're walking down here, down to these levels, what is very... It's like as if I've got... In memory, it's the residual. There's no two ways about that. It's not active, but it's like as if I'm getting a lot of people, and there's a lot of moaning, there's a lot of screaming, and a lot of crying, and a lot of just like a pathetic screeching at times and what have you. And and it's like as if they're falling down. And the stench and the smell is terrible.
Yeah.
Can you not smell? No. And it sounds like coming up at me from here, from these levels, and coming from down there. And it's like, the only way I can describe it is if a lot of people, you know, went down, got very ill, and they weren't tended to, and it was just, they were crawling some of them. It was so pathetic what I've just sensed now, and screaming and crying, and children as well.
Did these people die?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the energies, the residual energy is like just up at me, and it's surrounding me. It's all around us. It's all around the crew.
What did they die of? What was it?
It's a plague. It's a plague.
Right.
A plague.
The stench you said you could smell.
Yes.
Is that coming from the people who were dying or another source?
I feel it's coming from the actual skin, the flesh of the people. It's really, really, you know, poignant to me. Here, all around me.
Show me further
Yeah.
down.
A lot of people.
I hate this room.
Well, you know, this despair in this room, and this in this direction, this energy. Okay, I just feel as if.
Sorry.
Who's walking?
No, of course. Did anybody else hear that? Yeah, like a kind of, not hear it, almost like a cry.
In this direction, this energy. Okay, I just feel energy. Okay, I just feel as if. It's the cows. It's There's cows, there's goats. All the energies are in here.
That's
A mixture of animals here.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's where they were kept.
Keep them in there.
Oh, there's a lot of them.
Do you want to go in there or do you want to stay in here?
Just for the moment, can we just stay in
Yeah.
here?